Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Tuesday, and all of our guests today, including Iain MacIntyre, harmonica at the ready, standing by from Sportsnet.ca. Brought to you by our title sponsor, Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. Several people texting into the Delaney's, OK Tire in Langley, and Aldergrove inbox. We forgot about the great Canadian Neil Young.
Oh, yeah.
Outstanding harmonica player.
Oh, big time.
Obviously guitar player, not a bad singer-songwriter as well. Iain MacIntyre joining us now. Iain's a music fan. He likes his Hendrix. Iain MacIntyre from Sportsnet, sportsnet.ca, joins us now. Iain, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Well, as usual, I am unprepared because I do own, in fact, a couple of harmonicas.
Oh!
Even though I cannot play them. But here's the great thing. This is what I discovered, and this is why I own them, although actually I think they were given to me. The harmonica is one of those rare instruments you can play without knowing how to play it. And as long as you're smart about it, you can fool people for, 10, 15, 20 seconds before they realize you have no idea what you're doing. So I come from a musical family. Everyone in my family plays instruments. In fact, my older son, Duncan, just had a concert at Frankie's Jazz Club in Vancouver with the University of BC Jazz Orchestra.
Wow.
He plays trombone. Anyways, everyone in the family is musical except me. So every now and then, other than singing, I'll pull out a harmonica and just kind of fake it for like 10 or 15 seconds.
Iain, you realize we're going to ask you to give us
next
a
time.
solo in the next 10 minutes or so, if you don't mind. Not going to happen.
No,
Go get it. Go get it. Do it right now.
Something to look forward to for next season or when the Canucks win the Stanley Cup.
Okay,
Wow.
we'll hold you to that. How do you think management, Allvin and Rutherford, came across yesterday?
Spectacular. Spectacular. I mean, I didn't know where to begin with that news conference. Often you go to these things and you're hoping to get one nugget, something, a central theme. There was so much news in that press conference. And joking aside, full credit to Jim Rutherford and Patrik Allvin for being, I think, as honest and transparent as they could be, both about what occurred during this season of drama and what needs to occur now in this summer. As a journalist, I was pretty excited to sit through that press conference and hear what I heard.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know where to start. You're so bang on about how plentiful that press conference was. Did you have any knowledge of an incident, a particular incident between Pettersson and Miller before Jim Rutherford talked about it yesterday? No details, but he talked about an incident.
Right. I mean, there's been so much out there and so much speculation. I mean, I had heard there was a particular clash between them, and I'd heard it was early in the season. And I've heard, and I've written this for Sportsnet, that the conditioning of the two players sort of elevated the tensions between them, or at least elevated tensions with JT Miller, because the leadership group of this team, and I think it's like this for a lot of teams, they're in contact with each other through the summer on group texts, and they very adamant about, hey, we've got to. My understanding is that we got to be prepared. We got to take the next step. Let's last year, let's not have it a one-off. And conditioning was a big part of the theme, like everyone being prepared. And then, we know that from what Rick Tocchet told us way back when in Penticton, which feels like 3 years ago, he said that JT Miller was one of the best conditioned players. And, over time, we've come to know, because Patrik Allvin and Jim Rutherford, among others, talked about it, that Elias Pettersson was not one of the top conditioned players. And of course, Elias had told reporters at camp that he had to train around his knee, but he just wasn't ready to go. And I think that exacerbated some of the tension. I don't think anything like that would fully explain what has happened. But yeah, I'd heard there was an incident, and I couldn't really get to the bottom of it. And in this market, there's a lot of fiction that you have to sift through to find the facts. So I don't know that we're ever going to know unless unless Elias or JT Miller want to tell us about it, or maybe Rick Tocchet if he's coaching another team.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Ian, so you have the summer where Elias Pettersson's conditioning, it didn't go all that well, and then you have the revelation that his practice habits are an issue.
Yeah.
So what should make people confident that he's going to be more effective from that point of view, conditioning wise, in the summer?
I don't know that I can say anything to make people more confident that it's going to happen. It's really up to Elias, and that is, the $1 million question. Well, with the way the salary cap's going, maybe it should be a $11.6 million question. But he seems to, Elias, understand that he needs to be at another level. And as I just said, his thought is that the injury, that his sore knee that he had, which is, an issue unto itself, because what he thinks of the injury versus what the team thinks of the injury. But he said the sore knee affected this season. So if that's the case, and if Elias truly believes that, and now that he is healthy, and I think he's going to be, he told me late in the season that his knee felt good, then he should be able to get back to the conditioning that he needs to have, and maybe even more, come back in the best conditioning that you've ever had, not just what you had before this sore knee, but be even better. But it's really up to him. I loved what Quinn Hughes said in the players' press conferences last week, where someone asked him, like, can you guys help? I can't remember whether it was specifically about Elias, but can you guys help somebody else get in condition? And Quinn said, not really, because you can lead the horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You can offer the counsel, which obviously the Canucks have done with Pettersson. He's probably sick of hearing about it, but he had to hear it. He had to hear it, and he heard it from very important people in the organization. You can supply him with a plan, which I'm sure their training staff, their medical staff has done or will do, and you can supply him with resources. But in the end, it's up to the player. And that's the big gamble or hope or question, however you want to phrase it, for the Canucks going into this summer, is will Elias Pettersson do the things he has to do to be prepared and be a much better player next season? I mean, Elias says he's going to. So, until we see otherwise, maybe we should just believe him. But certainly it's a huge issue hanging over the team as it goes into this offseason.
Well, Ian, another huge issue is so many pieces missing in the top six. It's so easy to say, oh, we need 3 pieces. What's really hard to do is go out and get them. And they're expensive in a trade. And if you go to July 1st, you're going to have to overpay. You're going to have to overpay on term and money. Man, oh man, I don't know how they're going to get 3 pieces in the top 6, but it's going to be hard. It will not be easy, Ian.
Yeah, no, it is going to be hard. I thought that was one of the things that Rutherford said that maybe didn't get enough attention, and not the 3 pieces, but I'm thinking in particular of the top 6 center.
Yes.
Because he basically pledged that this summer, this organization is going to go and trade for a top 6 center. And he said it's going to be expensive. At one point he stopped himself, says, well, he's not going to play out his hand, but he said it's going to be expensive. But this seems to be not just a hope that maybe we can find someone. They're saying they're going to go out and trade for a top 6 center. So that'll be one piece. Maybe they get a piece in free agency, but as you guys know, as you just said, Rick, you overpay on July 1st, and there's just part of the reason you overpay in any normal year is because the free agency list is so thin. Yeah. And now you add this historic inflationary period that the NHL is going into with every team having money to spend. I think the price is maybe even crazier than what we're accustomed to. But in the end, this team has done, pretty well. You think of Pius Suter, you think of Kiefer Sherwood. They've found value. Yeah. Those guys, if you get them, you don't automatically think that they're going to be top 6 players, but they've shown that they can be a lot better players than what they were when the Canucks signed them. So hopefully they can find some value out there, get another player like that. I'd be surprised if they get all 3 of the key pieces that they're looking for this summer, but certainly a top 6 center is one. And then somebody in free agency. I'd be disappointed if they don't at least have 2 of the 3 pieces that they're looking for by training camp next fall.
And to think 2.5 years ago they had Horvat, Miller, and Pettersson up the middle, Ian, can you believe that? And look at where they are now.
Well, 11 months ago, they had Miller, Pettersson, and Elias Lindholm, which was pretty good, which was pretty good as well. Maybe there's a way to repatriate Elias Lindholm, if the Bruins are willing to retain a stack of cash.
That's a big price, though, Ian. It's
a
big price.
Yeah, but I mean, what is it, 7.75?
Yep.
So, I mean, if you can get it down to 5.75 in the way the NHL's going, I think Lindholm would be good value. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. As you guys know, I'm not the one for making up trades, but we should mention as well, Patrik Allvin, or reiterate Patrik Allvin yesterday saying that everything is still on the table with Elias Pettersson. So maybe it's not. Maybe it's not only 3 that they need. Maybe they need to get 4.
No kidding.
If they make another trade.
What's your gut saying? Is Tocchet back or not?
Oh, see, I knew you were going to ask me that, Rick, and I was trying to think of a good answer. I'll say this: like end of the season or near the end of the season, a month to go, I could see how draining this year had been. And Rick talked about that. And he talked about his staff emptying the tank day after day after day. At that point, I thought the chances were against him coming back. But then the end of the year, you know, there was some positivity around the team at the end of the year. And certainly in his press conference last week, Rick was talking like a coach who's going to be here. So I can't do any better for you than to say it just feels like a toss-up, but I think I felt there was a greater chance at the end of the season of him coming back than say with a month to go. It's a huge decision. All these things that were talked about yesterday, all the news points, all the items that the Canucks have to deal with this summer, to me, none is more important than that decision, hopefully this week, on whether Rick Tocchet is going to be the coach. Because if he's leaving, Adam Foote's leaving, Sergei Gonchar's leaving, who knows about the rest of the staff, it can be a real game changer. We know what Quinn Hughes and other players have said about them wanting to have Rick back. We know about the systems play and how much work went into the structure. And we saw that down the stretch when they had, 7 guys from the American who had been in the American Hockey League this season on their team, and they were still competitive. That's all tied to this coaching staff. So it's a huge decision coming up.
Little correction here, Ian. I think the proper phrase is, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him play the harmonica. So if you want to make that correction next time, we'd appreciate it.
If you have a horse that can play a harmonica, and I'm saying a horse probably could. Yeah. Because it's not hard to make a sound. It's like playing a kazoo. I'm sorry, harmonica players. I know that's terribly offensive of me to say that. But you can make a sound, and it's, depending. It's like playing the black keys on the piano. Here's another tip for you, Donnie, if you're not musical. Wow. Just play the black keys. Because if you have a certain kind of rhythm and sequence, it sounds like music.
Wow. Okay.
It does. I might go play the black keys right now while playing a harmonica and see how it sounds together.
See if you can get a horse to join you. We'll be there with the camera.
Yes.
Thanks, Ian.
That was the only thing this season was missing, a horse playing the harmonica. Otherwise, the Canucks ticked all the boxes.
Yeah.
No kidding.
Thanks, Ian. Appreciate it. Always.
See you guys.